Welcome, everyone, to another edition of VOM Live, presented by the Voice of Morgantown Network. Don't forget to subscribe today. I'm your host, Rush Bishop. I'm glad to be here with you today in the very first edition of pregame basketball. That's right. It is the first game for the basketball season. I know this is something we've really been looking forward to, especially with the way football season has gone. Fortunately for football, they've been doing well of late, but we're still excited that basketball is here. A lot of questions with this basketball team. Most importantly, is Ross Hodge able to continue the stabilization of this team that DeVries left off? And are we able to make March Madness for the first time since Huggs' last season that he was here in West Virginia? Obviously, it's been a tough couple of years at West Virginia, obviously, with everything that happened to Huggs and then Eilert having to step in and the conditions that he had to deal with. And then, of course, the following year, we get DeVries, which was a great hire, helped last year get this basketball team back on track. We end up getting screwed by the March Madness committee and kind of DeVries himself with the way that he left things and wasn't very, I'll say, friendly with his goodbye. But nonetheless, we are here today with Ross Hodge, someone that wants to be here, someone that can build his name at West Virginia, and someone that we can have that long-term relationship that we'd like to have in West Virginia with our coaching staff. So we begin tonight with Mount St. Mary's in the Coliseum. This is actually a team I'm pretty sure we opened up the season against in Huggs' last season back a few years ago. So a team we're kind of familiar with. I'll say they're local to the region, up in Maryland here. And I even though it's the transfer portal era and you could be familiar with the team, sometimes it's also very new. I mean, we only have one returning player as it is this year. And of course, as every year begins in the type of era we are in today, it's going to take a second for us to really get to know who these players are, how cohesive they are with each other, and hopefully they're not overcoming too much of a learning curve, that they're able to jump right in here, because a lot of these guys are former mid-major guys and have done well at the previous level. But hey, this is Power 4 basketball, and they all got to get along, and they all got to distribute the ball, and there's going to be a tough road ahead. I know for the preseason, first couple games here will hopefully all be wins, and we'll be able to get things right. But, we got Pitt next Thursday. So you got today, Thursday, and Sunday to really get everything in order. 4 days off to practice, and then you got the Backyard Brawl Hardcourt edition. And, of course, that's a game you want to win there. West Virginia's out. A couple guys are out for West Virginia tonight, and that's Jackson Fields. Obviously, he's still healing up from his wrist surgery. I think it was back in July. The good news is that's his non-shooting hand. Ross Hodge has talked about that it's progressing along nicely, and hopefully he should be returning here in the next few weeks. Would love to get him by Thanksgiving, of course. In a perfect world, love to get him before Pitt, but that's looking probably unlikely. And then, of course, Chance Moore, he's out the first 5 games. I think what happened there, if I understand it correctly, it was kind of weird, but the NCAA did grant him his 5th year of eligibility, but because he played back 5 games in Arkansas back, I think it was like in 2021, even though it wasn't for a lot of time, I think we're talking, couple minutes here, couple minutes there sort of situation. I guess he's not allowed to play 5 games this year. So he will definitely be out against Pitt. So the starting lineup that we see here, at least for this first 5 games, we'll see, of course, when Jackson Field comes back, is not necessarily the same starting lineup, the same rotations, that whole sort of thing that we'll see come the end of the non-conference season, the start of the Big 12 season. So as it stands tonight, I don't think this starting lineup is going to be a surprise for anyone. I mean, for far as I know, this is the starting lineup unless something drastic happened in practice. But Jasper Floyd leading off at point guard, Honor Huff, Trayson Eaglestaff, Brennan Laurent, and Harlan Obi Hop will be our starting 5. So let's talk about these guys here for a little bit, and then we'll talk about guys coming off the bench and how this can progress as the season goes on and what it means for tonight. So I think it's no secret. I think Jasper Floyd and Honor Huff, unless there's something dramatic that absolutely goes on, those guys will be playing the 1 and 2, starting at the 1 and 2 all season, and I think you can expect a lot of time out of them. Of course, with Floyd, he comes over with Ross Hodge from North Texas, so very familiar with his style of play. And obviously, in this day and age, when you can get some consistency, even if it was at another school with a coach and player, you'll take it. Very talented point guard, excited to see what he's capable of. And of course, Honor Huff, a lot of us are excited to see the not so secret scrimmage against Maryland was very good in, and a lot of expectations and great rumors about him coming out of practice and the preseason. So hopefully we see that come to life here in starting tonight. The 3, in my belief, is where I think things could get a little interesting. Obviously, Trayson Eaglestaff is going to be the starter with Chance Moore out. I could see this changing on later in the season. I think Eaglestaff is talented, and I think West Virginia is going to get a lot out of him, and I expect him to do great things here at West Virginia. Well, I hope he does great things here at West Virginia. I would not be surprised, though, if Chance Moore gets this role when he comes back. Chance Moore, more experience, stats are better from leading up to this point. I think Eaglestaff could be a great guy coming off the bench. That's not to say he's not capable of being a starter or a great player, but I think different guys can sometimes fit different positions. Maybe they do get it right. Maybe he is a starter and Chance Moore is better coming off a bench. We'll see here. But I think right now, where it stands in time, this is maybe the most vulnerable position that you could see changing different mixes throughout the year as we start to get more and more into the season. Brennan Laurent will lead off in the 4, and obviously, being 6th man of the year last year, this starting position will be a changeup, right? As sometimes we see the 6th man coming off the bench. He's the momentum shift. He's the difference maker. He's a guy that you can get actually a win because he's coming off a bench. And like I said earlier, to the Eaglestaff versus Moore starter coming off the bench guy, sometimes it's more about the timing, right place, right time, than it is actually the, hey, you're a better player because you're starting. There's momentum is a very important thing in sports, but especially in basketball when you need those momentum shifts. So we'll see how Laurent does at starting at the 4. Kind of used to being that guy coming off the bench, but I expect him to do wonderful things there, and looking forward to seeing him there. And then, of course, no surprise here, Harlan Obi-Hall will be the center and starting for West Virginia. And this is a player that we really need in the starting lineup because he's someone that can give us the size that we've struggled with having. We had it last year and could have it this year again. Every year, right? When I was doing the Ryan and Rush show before this, obviously now I'm doing VOM Live, we'll talk about an X factor and the guy that could be the main difference maker for a season or for a game. And it can change game to game, but overall, as time goes on, you start kind of seeing the same guy, right? In Huggs' last season, it was Eric Stevenson. The team kind of lived and died by him. I think this year, and I'm not saying he's the best player out there, because I think sometimes the X factor can be, a lot of people think, oh, it's the best player, and is he going to be available tonight, or is he going to disappear? I don't think Obi-Hall is the best player by any means, but I think his availability and the way he plays each game is going to be the difference maker when this season starts to get a lot tougher in the Big 12 and some of these non-conference opponents. I think because of his size and the way he plays, he's a great player, but the concerns are, right, a big guy getting in foul trouble. That's no surprise there. Can happen quite frequently. And obviously his stamina. How long is he able to stay in the game? If you can get those two things right, I mean, that's going to be the difference maker, I think, between a great season and a pretty good season. Of course, you don't want a guy playing apprehensive out there. You want him playing aggressive. You want him playing tough. And there are going to be games where he's in foul trouble. There's no doubt about that. It happens to big men. But the sooner he can find that fine line of being aggressive and a defensive powerhouse and, not getting fouled out of the game, the sooner he can find that, the better. And the more successful this team can be. So I'm going to say right now, as it stands, purely on paper going into this season, his availability and him being in the game as much as possible is going to be the X factor in all of these games. Of course, a couple guys coming off the bench that are going to be very important. I think we're going to see this team be a pretty deep team. I think even with Jackson and Chance out of these games, you could see it going 8-9 deep, and those guys come in, could go 10 deep, 11 deep. It's kind of like that Hugs mentality, right? Is our best 5 may not be better than your best 5, but our best 10 are better than your best 10. And you can win that way, of course. And with Ross Hodge, we're kind of returning to that coaching style that we've come accustomed to here in Morgantown, West Virginia. So very important guys. Amir Jenkins at the point guard position when Floyd's not available or needs to come out of the game. Amir Jenkins is going to be pivotal in how this team does when you sub. Morris Ugasuk is another guy that can be a difference maker in this game, and his depth is going to be crucial. DJ Thomas, and another guy that's going to shift between the 4 and 5 a lot, especially with Jackson Fields out, is Abraham Oedir. He is 6'9", so center-wise, he's on the smaller end. So when we're going to need size at the 4 position, he's going to be able to go in there. Obi Ha is going to have to take some breaks here and there, right? There are going to be games like I talked about earlier where he's going to get in foul trouble when, he's just out of gas, and you're going to have to put Abraham in there. And he's the only one that's left over from the team last year too. So even though it's a different coach, different team he's around, I mean, he's used to the atmosphere. He can be a leader in that regard. He knows the ins and outs of Morgantown, and that can be very important. So as of now, where it stands, I think those guys are going to be the coming off the bench, and what's going to keep this team in games is the performance of those guys, coming off the bench. I think we're a little deeper than that, but those are definitely the main guys that are going to be at play right now. And so I think an issue that we've seen over the preseason so far in the games we've played is how this team has done coming out of halftime. And that's a very important stretch, especially if you're dominant in the first half. You need to be able to come out of, that halftime, out of that locker room in, the second half and be ready to go, be fundamentally sound. Cause that's, the second halves of games is really, especially in the Big 12 of late January, early February games, are where teams start to make their mark and get themselves ready for March Madness. So with all that being said, I'm really excited tonight. Mount St. Mary's, I think West Virginia is somewhere between a 17.5 to an 18.5 point favorite. It's somewhere in there. It's first game of the season, right? You don't necessarily know how these teams are, I'll say, do right off the bat. I don't think it's a game we should worry about, but of course you shouldn't take any game lightly. I think this will be a great opportunity to get these guys to mesh and get on the same page, because there's a game tonight, Thursday, and Sunday, like I said earlier. So these 3 games and going 3-0 and really getting our feet underneath us is going to be crucial to how the rest of the season goes, especially trying to win that game against Pitt next Thursday. And a game like tonight can already play into a game like that. And you win a game like that, next thing you know, you build momentum going into your Thanksgiving tournament, your other non-con games against Wake Forest and Ohio State, and then, of course, the Big 12 itself. So those rivalry games are such a momentum shift types of games to get things right. And so in regards to tonight, obviously you can't take them lightly, Mount St. Mary's. It's anything can happen at any time, but this is also that great chance to experiment, see what works, and find your way. And I'm looking for West Virginia to be successful tonight. I think we're going to have a lot of excitement after tonight. It's a long season ahead. I don't need to remind all of you that, but really looking forward to seeing how this team comes to life. A lot of new faces. This is just the way of the world now. But I think Ross Hodge is our guy. I've made this comparison before, with the women's coach, Dawn. The way she kind of left is similar to how DeVries left. And then you get Kellogg coming in, saving the day. We're even better than we could imagine. And I think you could have something similar with Ross Hodge. And I think his style is more the style that we like here in West Virginia, and the type of coach that with that defensive-minded, deep roster mentality. I don't expect us to be press Virginia again, but I do think we could be half-court press Virginia again. And in today's basketball age, that can be extremely important. So anyway, guys, enjoy the game tonight. Looking forward to this team, as I keep mentioning, and it should be a good one. Let's go Mountaineers. See you guys again soon.
Voice of Morgantown, we break it first. WVU pride, we quench your thirst. No spin, all truth, loud and proud. Mountaineer nation, say it loud. The Voice of Morgantown. VOM, Mountaineer pride, we go all in. First to the facts, last to the spin. It's the Voice of Morgantown.